Welcome to the Besties in the Books podcast, guys. I'm Liz.
And I'm Ashley. And hello, hello, hello. I'm so excited to talk about this book. We're here officially for part 4 of our 6-part Hunger Games mini-series episodes. Every Friday, we've been dropping Hunger Games related videos, starting off with our dystopian sci-fi video and podcast episode that we talked like at length about dystopian themes, origins, why they're so popular in our media with books, shows, and movies. And basically rolling us into the Hunger Games, since obviously it's very dystopian. And we've so far covered, obviously, Hunger Games Book 1, Book 2, which was Catching Fire, Book 3, Mockingjay, and now we're going back in time to the prequel that is Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So technically Book 4 or point 5, depending on, how you like to categorize your books. I would say, though, after reading almost all of them, I haven't finished the brand new one that just came out, I like the reading order of reading the trilogy and then going into the prequels, gives all the context that you need. So today we're going to be covering that. It's President Snow's story, kind of how he came into his power that we know of for the Hunger Games trilogy. And we're going to be continuing to release more mini episodes as the series comes to a close. You never know, though. I guess I found out when I was looking at fun facts, which stayed to the end because I got a lot of fun facts for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. They, Miss Suzanne Collins said at the end of the Hunger Games trilogy that she was done. And then in 2019 said, just kidding, here's a new book, So, and then here we go, Sunrise on the Reaping that just came out on March 18th. What a nice little treat for us. So next week, Friday, March, I think it's the 29th, will be our full Sunrise on the Reaping. We call these mini-sodes, but that one, you guys, buckle up, Buttercup, because there is so much that we need to talk about. Liz hasn't started it yet.
No, I mean, it literally just dropped yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And of course my pre-order was delayed by a day, but it said it was because of weather. So I don't know what that means. For once our road isn't flooded. So I don't know. They could have gotten it here yesterday. So I'm getting it today. I'm starting it tonight. I'm so excited to the full circle moments, the Easter eggs. I live for that kind of thing. I fully agree that you should read, if you haven't done this yet, read the trilogy first and then go back and read the prequels. My husband just asked me about that. He's like, well, why wouldn't you read the prequels first if you were new to it? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't feel like you would have the same, you wouldn't care so much about finding out more about Snow if you didn't know what he had caused later on down the line.
Yeah.
There's more at stake, I feel. There's more about his origin story that would be interesting. But I don't know. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Agreed. Honestly, agreed.
So A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Good old Suzanne Collins. Here we are.
We'll do a full wrap up too after Sunrise of the Reaping. We'll do a final episode after that where we talk about everything. And we'll talk more about this, what reading order we recommend, because maybe we change our mind after Sunrise on the Reaping. Who knows?
Maybe.
So we'll talk about all that. We talk about the movies. Liz and I watched them when she was down here, so we got to watch that in person. And we have a lot of maybe hot takes, maybe not, but a lot of opinions on the movies and versus the books and all that. So we'll talk about all of that in that episode. That will be super fun too. We're excited. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you guys are here, for episode 4, you know why we did this, but lots of different reasons. I think one of the big ones was because, as we've been familiar with, if you're in the bookish space, you know that there's been a lot of talk about books not being political. Well, hey, we're not here to necessarily debate that with you, but we are talking about these books.
Yeah, just read this book and then come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Let the books speak for themselves, quite frankly.
Exactly. That's what I think. Yeah, exactly. Let the books speak for themselves. The themes are, I don't know how you could separate politics from these themes. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is because obviously with Sunrise on the Reaping coming out, we wanted to be able to read that with you guys and have that fun time.
Yeah.
And Ashley was new to the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So that's extra exciting seeing all of her reactions to everything. This was a reread for me, but now I'm in the, starting Sunrise on the Reaping. I'm going to be in the newbie category with all of you guys. I'm so excited.
Oh, I love that. Yep.
Yes. So again, just to make sure that you guys know, we've got all the books up on Fable, including Sunrise on the Reaping now. So you can read along with us over at Besties in the Book Club. We also have templates available to post your reading updates and then tag us in them on Instagram. And we'll be sharing those as well as we kind of make our way through this new book, which I'm pumped to start tonight, assuming the UPS guy drops it off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So anyways, before we get into the deep dive on this book, we just wanted to say thank you for being here.
Thank you guys so much for being here and joining us, whether you're just joining us for the Hunger Games or you stick around for our normal Tuesday podcast episodes that we do every week covering all kinds of different bookish things. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you like listen to your favorite podcasts, including YouTube. We're there hanging out live in video and just chilling and having a good old time. We appreciate your guys' support so much. Every like, follow, share, or subscribe, it helps our channel out so much, and it lets us know that we're on the right track and we can keep bringing these things to you guys. So thank you so much. Make sure to follow us also on Instagram and TikTok at Besties in the Books Podcast. And like Liz mentioned, the Fable app is a virtual book club app that can be spoiler free. So just search Besties in the Book Club there and you'll see all of our recent reads that you can follow along, and you can jump in at any time. So the water's fine. Let's just kick this off with our spoiler free, just one sentence star review. Okay. All right. I'll go first on this one. Yeah. Do it. Okay. 5 stars. I absolutely love this book because I love a good quote unquote villain origin story. And as I said before, I love full circle moments and Easter eggs. And I feel like, reading this book immediately after coming off of reading, the Hunger Games trilogy was like top tier full circle moments. Yes. And so 5 stars for sure. What about you? 5 stars, baby. I was also one that was like, I don't know, it's going to be hard for me to like get into President Snow's story, because if you read the trilogy, he's the ultimate villain, Am I going to have compassion? Like, what am I going to feel? Like, it's going to make me feel weird. Like, I don't want to have that whiplash of starting back, not just before the Hunger Games, but like well before the Hunger Games. Yeah. And no, you guys, it was amazing. 10 out of 10 would recommend. If you're on the fence, I'm finding out a lot of people skipped this one. Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, it's not crazy to me. It's crazy to me now reading it, right? It wouldn't be crazy to me when I was in the same boat, but after reading it, no, you have to. And it might be, maybe it's slow at first because you're getting that whiplash of, you just ended the trilogy on this crazy epic situation, and then you're starting kind of over again, but not. So maybe it takes like the first 15%, but then guys, it's crazy. And if you saw the movie, it goes in so much deeper, just like the other movies. The books go in so much deeper. What they focus on in the movies isn't necessarily the entire story. So they only have so much time. They only have an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, obsessed. Loved it. Yeah. We'll read all of these again so far. Totally. I mean, I can't relate to the not wanting to read it because I had read the trilogy a while back, and then when the new one came out, so when A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I've got my original copy here. When this came out, I mean, I read it like immediately. I was like, ooh, another Hunger Games book. Kind of like what we're doing with Sunrise on the Reaping, another Hunger Games book. I wasn't really too concerned with it being I didn't care what it was. Prequel, sequel, like partner novel, like I don't care. Like I'll read whatever, Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I loved this book for sure. I feel like, we'll talk about this more in the wrap-up episode where we discuss the movies, but I feel like the movie was done so well, it made me like the book even more, and then rereading it even more. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like it's one of those fandoms where, like, it's been done so well that I feel like the more you consume, it just, like, makes the overall experience better. That would be my... Yes. Yeah. And I would say, because I just gave this advice to one of our friends who was kind of struggling to get into Ballad of Songbirds but loved Hunger Games, is kind of do what we did. So Liz was down here visiting, and I think we're both like 30% in. Obviously, it's a reread for you, but it's like, oh, I love watching the movies with Liz now, and I have the context of how I felt about the first books and the movies. So let's just watch it. And if I just feel like if I was struggling with the books, watching the movie helped me because they cast everybody so well.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Viola Davis as Dr. Gall. Oh my gosh. Top tier.
Amazing.
So you get that energy and vibe and kind of the feeling of everything, and then go in and read the book. So like if you're like, I don't know, I can't get through this, you're gonna get some things spoiled for sure, but there's so much more going on in the book than that. Like I said, they can't cover in the movie. So give it a chance. I'm gonna scream it from the mountains. It's gonna be like my new thing. Like read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It's so good. It's different. It is different than Hunger Games. You're not getting, it's different in the way that's like, it's not like Harry Potter. It's okay, another year of school. Okay, here we go. Go on to say it's not the same routine that you're seeing. So
it's different. The pacing is very different. I think that might be another thing that's hard for people. It's like the chapters are longer, the book is longer. Every chapter doesn't end on a cliffhanger. It's not quite the same pacing, but I feel like it's done differently, but just as well.
Well, it's a different tone, which is, I think, more authentic in my opinion, because we have a totally different person that we're dealing with here. Yeah. So their tone is different. And a different point
in time. A different, like, completely different time period in, like, their world, too.
Yeah. So I think that's brilliant of our author, Suzanne Collins, to do. Yeah. So give it a chance, man.
Just because we have to say it, because we always say it, this is also a zero spice.
Yeah.
So, this is in the YA category as well. However, very well written. I feel like very engaging for adult audiences too. Yep. And there is a romance. I mean, that's a big part of this book for sure. But it's definitely like very tame, closed door, like no spice. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, so should we get into our spoiler section with our 5-sentence summary?
Let's go. I gotta go get my Casio keyboard.
Okay.
BRB. Spoilers on the way, guys. Back off. Save it to your playlist. Watch it later if you don't want spoilers, because they're coming in hot. You've been warned.
I'm just going to preface this 5-sentence summary with the fact that a lot happens in this book. I had a much harder time writing this 5-sentence summary than the ones for the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I had to leave a lot of stuff out. Yeah. Because I just could not include all the side quests here.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. So here we go. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in 5 sentences. Okay. Coriolanus Snow lives in a recovering, quote-unquote, post-war Panem in the capital with his grandma and cousin Tigris because his mother died in childbirth and his father, a cruel but renowned war general, died during the war.
Okay.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Because the Snow family lost all their wealth in the war, it is Corio's #1 priority to win a scholarship from school to go on to the university. As a model straight-A student, he was a shoo-in until it was announced that the winner of the scholarship this year will win not based on academics, but on their ability to mentor and sell their Hunger Games tribute to the audience in the capital, helping revive the games from something no one wants to watch to a must-watch sensation.
Oh, it sang a little bit to me.
With the subtle guidance of the arguably insane game maker, Dr. Gall, Corio mentors his extremely charismatic tribute, Lucy Greybeard, a beautiful singer with a rebellious nature from District 12, and helps her to not only gain the most popularity among capital citizens, but win by giving her rat poison to use and by making her immune to the wrath of Dr. Gall's snakes. Then they fall in love.
Okay.
It's very ominous and foreboding, for sure.
Gotta, do it like a keytar. Hang on. I don't have this is, awkward. I'm in an office chair now, not the couch, so I don't got a lot of room. All right, go. That was 3. So you got 2 more.
Yep.
How are you gonna do it?
Yep. Lucy Gray goes back to District 12, and because of his cheating in the games, Corio is sent to be a peacekeeper there as well, where Sejanus, his old friend from school who can't stand the Hunger Games because he used to be District, joins him with the hopes of becoming a medic, but instead gets caught up in the rebellion and hung because Corio secretly sells him out to Dr. Gall.
Okay. The turn.
All right.
It's taking a turn.
Taking a turn. Corio and Lucy Gray decide to run away together. Lucy for safety and happiness, and Snow because he loves Lucy Gray but sees no way out since the gun he shot and killed the mayor's daughter with is at large. They make it to the cabin where they find the guns, and Lucy Gray runs away from him and disappears for good, knowing he would kill her to go back to the life he wants in the capital. Which is exactly what happens when Dr. Gall invites him back to be her protege, and Snow murders Dean Highbottom for being the one person left who understands the games were never supposed to happen, but Snow's father pushed for them as an evil mastermind, exactly what Corio is becoming.
And that is exactly the notes that I felt in my soul when I read that final page. Or saw that final scene in the movie. Like, oh, one more time. Oh, I just messed that up. Hang on. Am I right? What a beautiful shot that was. Like him re-entering the Capitol. Ooh, chills. I still get them. That was crazy. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
Wow.
I agree. So like I said, I mean, I had to leave a lot out, but you know, that's the gist.
It's 5-sentence summaries. You guys just read the book, or you know it. You're here. You're in the spoiler section. We can't fit it all. You know, that's what she said. Oh, let's digest this, shall we?
Yeah. I feel like so much happened in this book, and it was so freaking interesting to see. I definitely have different opinions about it the second time around.
Interesting.
So, yes. And after watching, like, rewatching the movie. So, when I watched it with you, that was my third time watching it. I actually went to see this twice in the theaters because I liked it so much.
Nice.
And it was my second time reading the book. So I have very different thoughts about Corio's personality this time around.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that when we get to character portion.
Nice.
But why don't you just kick it off with telling us what your favorite part of this book was?
Honestly, like that whole forest scene, you know, and them potentially running away together. I felt like reading Snow's or Coriolanus's monologue, because we don't really think of him as Snow yet, right? He is really like fully understanding who he's becoming and kind of starting to accept it. And and Lucy Gray too. Like I felt like young people in love sometimes don't read the signs that they have in front of them. They make a lot of changes of who they are at their core to please the other person or be with the other person. And it was kind of, even though it's for bad, even though it's awful, like who Coriolanus is becoming, it was kind of refreshing to see them both look at life for what it is and what they want and what they're becoming and say, wait, maybe I don't want that. And be able to do it, you know, a few months in, not years. Oh, shoot. You know, now I'm 23 years old and I made these decisions and I'm not happy. Because look at where were they going with, like, literally, where were they running away to? It was bad. You get to see Coriolanus's internal monologues of, like, I freaking hate this. This is the forest.
Yeah, like I don't even like being outside.
Yeah.
What am I going to do here?
Like these birds. You get to see, like, his complete disdain for the birds building and building and building, and the panic that he's kind of feeling, but not in like an anxious way. It was just like an interesting insight to the personality. And then you see Lucy Gray seeing his red flags, and because she is such a strong person already, she's able to be like, ooh, hang on. Wait a second. Yeah. Red flag alert. Where's the red flag guy? So I just love that whole pivotal moment, whatever you want to call it. That was huge. It took up a lot of time, so just saying that scene is watering it down, but it was like a huge time. It was my favorite part, hands down. Loved it.
Yeah, it was a big, like, huge amount of character building in that, like, chapter.
Yeah.
Or whatever
Whatever
2
it
chapters.
was.
You know what I mean? It was a very short amount of time, but I feel like I agree with you, like, just to kind of piggyback off that, because that was also my favorite part in the book.
Yeah.
And the movie also.
Yeah. They did an excellent job.
Yeah, I feel like, to go back to what you were saying, it's like, they're just realizing, like, I don't doubt that they were in love. Like, I think that they were in love. Even, like, I don't believe that Corio, is a sociopath. Like, I think that he does have feelings, even though he's the villain, for sure. And so I think he was fully in love with Lucy Gray. But the thing is, she was the one who was able to outsmart him.
Yep.
Like, I think they both realized that they weren't going to be together in that moment in the woods, but I 100% think would have just killed her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that he would have, like, they would have been able to reason it out. He so badly wanted to go back to the capital. Like, he needs the, he needs the opulence. He needs the accolades. He needs, like, that to... Like, he's kind of a narcissist.
Yeah.
Like, really, truly, at the core of his personality. And so I think that he needs all those things to thrive.
Yeah.
And she kind of, like, in some ways likes the spotlight, obviously, but I think she more does that, like, from just a joy, like, she needs joy.
Yeah.
In her
an
life
artist
somehow,
perspective.
Exactly, an artist perspective. And I think that they did realize they're very different, but because of the fact that he's looking out for number one. He's looking out for himself. I think he would have been completely fine to murder her and then just go on with his life.
Yeah.
And so I love that in the end she outsmarted him.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know for sure, but
yeah.
like, we pretty much know.
Yeah. It's not, we don't know if he accidentally did, not accidentally, but he doesn't know if one of the bullets hit her or not. It's left open-ended. And he is perfectly fine with that. So we get to see that. And he doesn't like loose ends. So I think that's what it comes down to, too, is he wants to make sure, even if she's not, like, actually a threat to him, he can't take that risk. He couldn't take that risk of the guns being found. He couldn't take the risk of her, she would tell that he did it, or whatever. Them recognizing how different they really are, I think it's very young. It was very young love to me, even though, sure, it was love. It was still that young love, but they have to be so much more mature than they would be at freshly 18 years old because of the world that they're in, that I think they're able to see the trees for the forest, or whatever the saying is.
Well, I think it was also, like, really just that whole scene was very symbolic of, in my opinion, the moment where Corio snaps. Into, it's like he finally, like, almost, like, breaks out of this shell of, like, who he thinks that, he's supposed to be, and realizes that, for better or for worse, he could be much more than that. And so I appreciated that. It was like this whole imagery with, like, she's escaped. He finds his mother's scarf. She, leaves the trap there with the snake to bite him. He thinks he's going to die, but then nothing happens. And then he's kind of going crazy because all of the mockingjays are, like, all around him. And I think... and you can see him, he's, like, literally, like, screaming with this gun in the woods, like, stumbling around with all of this, like, fury. And the thing is, I think that it's, like, in that moment, she was the one on the reciprocating end of the fury, but really it was, like, everything from his past finally surfacing in that moment. Or at least that's how I read it, where it's, like, him having to deal with all this PTSD from the war and, the expectation for him to succeed in a society that doesn't set everyone up for success, even if you are living in the capital. There's very distinctly a hierarchy even there. Him dealing with his parents' deaths, him dealing with, I think, the realization that he'll never get to live a normal life. Yeah. And I loved that. It was like a complete crumbling of, like, his, almost like him trying to convince himself that he ever could have a normal life.
Yep. It's that and accepting, like, who he's destined to be. It's like he's trying to suppress that. And what the movies missed out on is exactly that. Like, they focus a lot on her love story. But to me, this book is a love triangle book between his love of Lucy Gray, or just even love, if you will, and power. He's
100%.
It's trying to constantly choose, because we hear, and I have some quotes that I'll talk about later when we get to the quote section, of just him quoting, you know, about wanting that power and to be someone and grappling with that and knowing that he has to fully decide between love, companionship, or absolute power. So yeah, lots of themes and tropes in this book that are crazy to watch happen. Yeah. And another huge theme for me was nature versus nurture, you know?
Oh, huge.
So you can see that it's both, right? You can see that's nature and nurture. His father, he like doesn't want to be like his father, but then he does, because it's so like ingrained in just his DNA, because he wants to kind of be like his mother. So his mother symbolizes Lucy Gray, and his father symbolizes that power, you know, because he grapples with that memory constantly too. So it kind of, if you're just watching the movie, it might feel kind of ambiguous or out of nowhere that he kind of snaps like that. But when you read the book, you're like, no, it's building up to this. Sense. Like, he's constantly trying to decide between these two paths in life. Even with Sanjayas, like, you get so much more backstory with him. So, yeah.
Well, and even just like, you know, like I said before, I love a full circle moment. Yeah. Like, that whole realization that it wasn't Dean Highbottom who came up with the Hunger Games, or he did, but it wasn't him who like turned it into a real thing. It was literally Coriolanus's dad.
Yeah.
And it was like, he's carrying on the legacy that he was set up from the beginning to carry on. And he would have had to actively resist that and fight against it to not become that.
Yeah.
And in the end, he didn't want to.
Yeah, he didn't want to. And it's the Hunger Games. He's just as much a part of the Hunger Games. Like, he's just as much a victim of the Capitol as anybody else is. Not to victimize the villain, but he is. He is, you know, we are all a result of all of our influences around us and our experiences. And he is trying to survive. You know, they're literally starving in the Capitol, just as the people in the districts are in the Hunger Games trilogy. And he doesn't want to go back to that ever. And, you know, Lucy Gray is the unknown, running off into the woods. He knows he's not going to survive. There's not some other, you know, that we know of, district out there that's going to save him. So it's like, what am I going to go live in a stick hut? Like... Yeah. Give me a break.
He's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to build that. Yeah. I've never built myself anything before. I mean, he even talks about how it's a waste of his potential.
Yeah. He thinks very highly of himself, too.
Yeah.
Which he is. He's really smart. Yeah.
He's super smart. He, you know, given the right opportunities, he could be exactly what he becomes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think that he saw that opportunity and took it. And I think that's what makes a really good villain, is this idea that it's like, you know, maybe not all of us would turn into supervillains.
Yeah.
But given the option of running away with a target on your back as a rebel into the woods, where you essentially have to freaking Little House on the Prairie it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or go back to the city with your family and the people that you know and what's comfortable, and then have power and, you know, like some kind of like familiar life where you can go up in the ranks. I feel like most people would choose comfort. Most people would choose that.
Well, he got to see what happened to Sanjanus. You know, these names are difficult for me to say out loud for the first time. But, you know, he got to see what happens with him. And people that resist, like, he got a taste of things by being a peacekeeper, you know, of he got to see a bigger picture. And, like, that's why you kind of see him retreating into himself and accepting those parts of him, because he knows what he's going to have to do to survive this world, to live. Not that it's okay, but it's just very interesting. Every single person in that world is just trying to survive, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's crazy.
So what about a part that you didn't like? If you had to choose a part that you really didn't like?
Yeah, you know, Sanjayas' hanging was pretty brutal. You know, with the freaking birds.
Sorry not to laugh, but like, I love that you're just like, well, you know, when one of the main characters gets killed off in this horribly terrible way. Yeah.
And the birds flapping and like screaming ma, ma, because that was his last word. Ooh, that like made me cry. And not that it's hard in these books to get me to do that, but you can see, like, you almost have a little bit of empathy for Coriolanus, that, like, these birds are so symbolic because, like, yeah, his first experiences with the Mockingjays, like, that's PTSD. Like, he's hearing people get
100%.
hung and their last words, you know, being ridiculed above them. Hey, you know what? We got to see exactly where the inspiration was in the Hunger Games 2 in the 50th quarter, you know, the 75th quarter quell. My gosh, whatever. Quarter quell, where Katniss is in the clock arena and they have the birds that are tormenting people. That's like exactly where he got it. So that was kind of cool about reading these prequels, is that you get to see, oh, that was the inspiration for that. That was the idea for that.
Totally.
You know, because he's freaking lived it.
Especially knowing that his main mentor ends up being Dr. Gall.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
like,
that was so... I loved that. As much as she's crazy, I loved being able to see, oh, this is where all that comes from. Yeah. I was like literally a mad scientist.
Mad scientist. It's like, then that's the thing. It's like nature versus nurture. I think that he's extremely intelligent. He has all these ideas on his own, but without the philosophy that Dr. Gall brings, like the political and I guess like, I don't know, philosophical like ideas that Dr. Gall brings to like his mind, I don't know that he would have used them in that same way. Yeah. You know, it's like she really throughout the whole entire book was guiding him because she saw his potential, I think.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And she knew his father too, so she knew how to probably guide that as well.
Like, and manipulate him too.
What about you? What was your least favorite part?
My least favorite part was, I mean, obviously, Sejanus dying was terrible for sure. My least favorite part, though, was when Sejanus goes into the arena and Corio has to go in there and get him out.
Yeah. Oh,
I really disliked that part because, truthfully, as much as like I get Sejanus's perspective, I understand why he's so, you know, torn and upset and conflicted and like having such a hard time. It's like, dude, don't do that though. That's so dumb.
Well, that's basically what Coriolanus tells him. So yeah, I liked that.
Yeah. But it was like,
his really character was very frustrating. Yeah. But how many people, I mean, I don't know that we know because we're not in the situation, but like there's a lot of people that would be very similar to him, you know? Very like throwing themselves out there, doing whatever, being, you know, because he wasn't the smartest and he's just doing whatever he thinks he has the power to be able to do to make a stand. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, he was a super, you know, intentionally, I think, problematic character. Yeah. And so it was important for him to do the things that he did to move the plot along. I just really hated that part. Yeah. I was like, dude, get out of there. This whole situation could have been avoided. And it's like and I get it. It's like money is literally buying his freedom. Yeah. And he feels an insane amount of guilt for that, which I'm sure a lot of people would. But then at the same time, it's like, imagine being a tribute who is being forced into the Hunger Games and you have this rich kid coming in, choosing to be in there on purpose. Yeah. Because they just feel bad. Yeah. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we're all starving to death, having to fight to the death. And you're like coming in here because like, boo-hoo. It's like Chandler, you know, your golden shoes are too tight, you know? It's like, that just really frustrated me. Like, I get it. And I know why it's important, but I had a really hard time reading it the first time. And I had a hard time reading it the second time. I was like, oh, dude.
Yeah. That was but the ending of that scene, that was Coriolanus' really first kill, and you know, he had to grapple
and he
with
liked
that.
How it felt.
And we got to kind of see all of the 3 kills he did have, with the 4th one being kind of like maybe not. Well, no, 5th. Gosh, how many people did he kill in this book? Oh my gosh, I'm just now realizing
no, he killed the boy in the arena. Yeah. You know, because that was a major point of contention when he said, I killed 3 people.
Yeah, exactly.
And she was like, who's the other one?
Because Sejanus is the 3rd one, because he ratted him out. So he takes responsibility for that. The second one was the ex-boyfriend, right? Or the second girl.
One was
Lucy Gray. The girl. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, those are all different types of people and symbolism in each of those kills, you know?
Totally.
Which is crazy.
Well, yeah, because the first one was literally like Dr. Gall put him in there intentionally because she wanted him to have to do something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like the first one pretty much like convinced him that on our basis level, we're all just, we'll do whatever is necessary to survive. We'll become violent creatures. She was converting him to her philosophy. Like her way
indoctrinating him, if you will.
Indoctrinating
like,
him. Yeah.
Fully.
So that was like step one. So then step two was him, killing.
In the heat of the moment,
the mayor's
not
daughter.
Out of defense, necessarily. Covering his tracks, though.
Covering his tracks.
Yep.
Yeah. So
she's going to stop him
like,
from gaining power. Yep.
Well, what that symbolized to me is that is an important theme, and I was going to talk about this a little bit in dystopian themes, so this might not necessarily be a dystopian theme. I don't know. Maybe just the theme of this book. But like the idea that Koryo is smart enough to understand, and so is Dr. Gall, that it's like rules are meant to be broken. It just depends on who you are and the status that you are at of whether or not you can break them.
Yeah. For sure.
And so it's like this idea that they're controlling, obviously, the districts with all of these rules, with the Hunger Games, with all of these things, but really that's all made up.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like that was kind of the moment where Koryo was realizing, too, like, not just like, what can I get away with, but how can I also play the powers that be to get what I want?
Yeah.
Because he's like literally killing the mayor's daughter.
Yeah.
So, and getting away with it. So I think that was important too. And then obviously the betrayal of his friend in the end to save himself was kind of, I felt like one of the last like ties that he had to, he was cutting the last tie that he had to like his, I don't know, like a piece of his humanity in that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
So what about characters?
Favorite character,
least favorite.
Favorite character was Lucy Gray. I feel like for obvious reasons.
She's great.
Yeah, loved her. And least favorite character was Dr. Gall. What a creep! What a creep! As much as I enjoyed her character because she's so freaking crazy. Yeah, she's my least favorite character, and we get to see her extreme manipulation when she sent Coriolanus into the arena, like we just talked about. Half forcing him to see true human nature. It was essentially grooming him, even though it was already, she saw that it was there. But that's kind of what grooming is, right? They have a certain person that they're going for. And when they see it, they can groom certain things out of them. So, and then we saw in his essay that he wants that control that she saw, obviously, too. So, at least favorite character. But golly, Viola Davis killed it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
nailed
perfect.
it. She's so perfect.
Great. Yeah.
How about you?
Well, my favorite and least favorite character are both Snow.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. I was thinking about it and I was like, obviously I love Lucy Gray like so much. Honestly, if I had to pick least favorite or most favorite, Dr. Gall might be in one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
She was great. But yeah, when I really thought about it, it's like, I feel like for me, Koryo was both because you really got to see his like mental switch.
Yeah.
Like, from becoming a, quote unquote regular person to becoming a villain.
Yeah.
Or what we would perceive to be a villain.
Yeah.
And I thought that, Suzanne Collins wrote that in such a way that it's like, it's like we have empathy for him and his plight, but at the same time we understand that like what he's doing is like super wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like we got enough of both perspectives to really be able to see how that was like a gradual descent into almost like madness for him. Like he's slowly going like crazy, I feel.
Yeah, so many villains I think that we, hear stories about in real life and in stories is like, oh, they're like you said, psychopaths. They're this, they're that. They've always been that way. And even though he had these characteristics, you see that he grows into who he becomes in the Hunger Games. So,
well, imagine, like, let's just paint a scenario. Imagine if his mentor was someone who was interested in restoring prosperity and peace to the world.
I've thought about
right?
that.
Like he probably, being the super intelligent person, and arguably power hungry person he is, may have utilized his skills for good under the right like
guidance
tutelage or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So I feel like that's all it takes for some people.
Yeah. It totally, totally. That's where that nurture nature comes back into question again. It's like, well, he's the victim of the Hunger Games just as much. Like, that's why Dr. Gall's my least favorite as a person, because, like, she's just freaking crazy. Like, she doesn't even care about anybody. She just wants to make these crazy hybrid animal humans at any cost, like using people to make the, Avoxes to make these mad Frankenstein science experiments. She's just nuts.
Yeah.
Obviously super smart too, but she knows he's a tool to be able to get all of that to continue.
Well, and that's the thing though, is they're letting her.
Yeah.
They're letting her.
Yeah.
And so really, it's like at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we can see that she's evil. But when the whole government functioning around her is encouraging her to do what she's doing.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Like, as a crazy, complete lunatic like she is, like, why would she not use that opportunity to further her agendas?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
How would you say that this book specifically, out of all of them, made you feel?
Dude. Whoa, crazy. Whoa, crazy. Yeah, it gave me a lot to think about. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I feel like it's like that. I don't really know how to explain it. It's the satisfaction you get from checking things off a physical list. Yeah. As a person with that type of brain, like, I get that satisfaction out of very few things, but I feel like with books, it's one of the major ones where I love being like, oh, that's where that came from. Oh, that's why that character is this way. Like, that's why prequels, and in particular, one of my favorite types of books to read are, like, let's say you read a whole book and you're like, wow, that was so good. And then it comes out from a different character's perspective, the same story. Some people really don't like that because they find it repetitive. I freaking love that because it fills in all the holes that we didn't see before. And that's how this book made me feel. And so that's why I'm so excited to read Sunrise on the Reaping, because I can't even imagine, like, what more things we're going to learn.
Yeah. It's like, this is how villain origin stories should be done. I think we get a lot when we hear villain origin stories. I don't know about you, but I think of like the Disney ones that are like, oh, look at, they're good, but they mean to be good, but everything's good. They started with good intentions. No, this didn't. Like, he didn't. I mean, he did. Like, you got to see the full. He's very humanized. You got to see the full growth and change in him. But that was always there, though. So it didn't water down. It didn't sugarcoat it. It didn't paint it. Because that's kind of what I was worried about, going into the prequel. Like, oh, they're going to try to make us like him. And, like you said, it's your favorite and least favorite character. Because you can appreciate that he's a fully conceptualized person now.
Yeah.
Doesn't make him good. But it makes the story and the plight crazy and good. So, that's how I felt.
Well, because I feel like lots of times with those typical quote-unquote villain, like, origin stories, or even with hero origin stories, there's always one pivotal event.
Yeah.
Right? Or usually one pivotal event that will change the course of that individual's story or life, right? I feel like in this case, because that does not make sense, as you're saying, for a fully actualized, human character who's being created with agency, right? Like, it's usually more than one thing. And I think that's what the author did so well here, was showed this was a series of events, societal and personal, that led to this occurring. And it also did not exist in a vacuum at all. Like, there were many outside factors that were influencing the outcome. And I thought that was really good too. Really interesting.
Yeah. And she did that in what, 500 pages?
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
She's good. Like the queen of telling stories that you really care about without having to, like, get bogged down in any information that's unnecessary. It's like
100%.
That's amazing. It's
amazing. Wow.
So what about, like, unanswered questions? Now that we're done with the trilogy and we're done with Snow's story, like, what unanswered questions did you have, like, moving forward or going into this new book?
I just am dying to know what happened between Tigris and Snow
Yep.
to make her want Katniss to kill him.
Yep.
Because that was crazy coming off of Hunger Games Book 3, Mockingjay. No, Mockingjay? Yeah.
Yep.
Mockingjay is to know that Tigris was the one to harbor the, rebels, Katniss and the other rebels in her cellar. And when she said, I'm going to kill Snow, she's like, come on in. Sounds great. Because you're waiting for her to turn on her, but she really doesn't turn on her. And then going into Ballads and Songbirds. And it's like the first chapter that we're introduced to Tigris.
Yeah. She's a
And
main
I'm just
character.
like, oh, we're going to find out. We don't find out what happens.
No.
I mean, I suspect, she sees how evil he's becoming later on and, turns away. But so much so that she wants a rebel to kill him. Something happens in there. So I'm hoping we get that in Sunrise and the Reaping. I don't know if we do yet, but I'm hoping for the best. If not, we better have another book coming or I'm going to rage.
Yeah. I mean, I have the same unanswered questions and things that I wanted to know after we finished, because we talk about this at the end of every book, but specifically once we were done with the trilogy. I just want to know more. She does such a good job of writing characters. I just want to know more about the characters. So yeah. I want to know what happened to Tigris to get from point A to point B. Yes, that's a huge question I have. I want to know what happened to Lucy Gray. Where did she go? Where did her story continue on to? It might be as simple as, she made it to District 13 and just lived out her days, right? I don't know. We don't know. But like that, I'd want to know more about. Pretty much just that. Like, just I want to know more. Like, it's not necessarily.
You get a prequel and you get an origin story.
Yeah,
and you get what? Like, let's just keep them coming down the pipeline. As long as they're good, let's go.
Yeah. It's not necessarily like a frustrated, like, oh my God, this was unanswered and now I don't know what to do and I'm feeling weird about it and it's going to haunt me. No, it's more like this world is just so thoroughly built with characters I really enjoy reading about. I mean, even getting more of Snow's story, because I mean, it ends when he's only 19 years old, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a huge chunk of time from then until even Haymitch's book, where it's like we have blank space, and so I don't know,
it's like
maybe
40 years in between.
Yeah.
19 and 50 a quarter a quill.
Yeah. So it's like I just want more. That's it. It's not unanswered questions in a bad way. It's unanswered questions in a please give us more books way.
Yeah. I did like, because of Dr. Gull, we got to find out what's going on with the Mutts, and that kind of origin. So we got to find out that. So we got questions answered in this book.
For sure.
And we got to find out, where'd the poisoning come from? Well, it started with Lucy Gray giving her the rat poison. And then, Dean Highbottom, he poisoned. So that was his first poisoning. He saw how simple that was. So,
could we give a shout out to your nickname really quick of Dean Highbottom? Because I was thinking of that the other day and it cracked me up. Ashley called him Drunklage, and so we just kept calling him Drunklage the whole time.
I'll never not now. Because he's all high. Well, Highbottom is good enough, right?
Yeah.
But,
Drunklage
it's also
was pretty good.
Drunklage with Peter Dinklage. I was like, who's that Drunklage guy again? Because I was trying to relate in the book. Yep. It's
so
great.
good.
It's perfect. Yep.
Are you officially, I mean, you've already started reading the next one, right? I was going to ask you if you're excited to read the next one, but you're already how far in?
After going to the release party, not excited to read it, no. After pulling myself out of my house to be at a release party luckily it was 9 p.m. so they were going off of Eastern Standard Time. Yes, I would say I'm excited.
Nice. Good. Yeah.
What about you?
Me too. I just need the UPS guy to drop my book off and then we will get started. Actually, I'm almost done with Phantom by H.G. Carlton right now. So once I'm done with that, I'm starting. I'm excited.
Yes.
So what?
Yeah, we're super excited. Yeah. We based our whole mini-series off of the release of this, but then we're like,
not really.
I don't know. I can't watch it. I can't read it. Yeah. We give up.
Don't care. Yeah, just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any notable quotes you would like to share with the group?
Yes. Okay, so my favorite thing throughout this book was you know, the love triangle that Coriolanus was having with power and actual real love. So I had went through and quoted, you know, highlighted quotes anytime he mentioned power, because I noticed it pretty early on. So one of the things he was like dealing with was his past and the PTSD from the war and everything. And so one of the quotes that I highlighted was the ability to control things. Yes, that was what he loved best of all. Mm-hmm. That right there, like, set us up. And then there's multiple. So we control it, he said quietly. If the war is impossible to end, then we have to control it indefinitely, just as we do now, with the peacekeepers occupying the districts, with strict laws, and with reminders of who's in charge, like the Hunger Games. In any scenario, it's preferable to have the upper hand, to be the victor rather than the defeated. Mm-hmm. So he saw what he would need to do to not just be someone who's defeated constantly.
Yeah. I thought this was a really interesting part in the book where he gets so triggered by the Mockingjays that he says we should kill them all.
Yeah.
He says the words slipped out before he could stop them. And they say, kill them all. Why? And he says they're unnatural. And so I really liked that because it was a lot of foreshadowing, for sure, whatever you want to call it. The quote is, he didn't mind the Jabberjays so much. They seemed rather interesting from a military standpoint, but something about the Mockingjays repelled him. He distrusted their spontaneous creation, nature running amok. They should die out and die out soon. So I liked that a lot.
Interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see, when they're talking about like human nature, I liked this part as well. Lucy Gray drew back a bit. That's what you think people would do? I do, unless there's law and someone enforcing it. I think we might as well be animals, he said with more assurance. Like it or not, the Capitol is the only thing keeping anyone safe. So they keep me safe? And what do I give up for that? She asked. Coriolanus poked at the fire with a stick. Give up? Why, nothing. The Covey did, she said. Can't travel, can't perform without their say-so, can only sing certain types of songs, fight getting round up and you get shot dead like my daddy, try to keep your family together and you get your head broken like my mama. What if I think that price is too high to pay? Maybe my freedom's worth the risk. So I like that like debate between both of them where he's saying like, what did you have to give up? Like, you didn't have to give up anything. She's like, literally, like, I have given up everything, but you're just naive to that, you know? Okay, I liked this part. He didn't like love, the way it had made him feel stupid and vulnerable. If he ever married, he'd choose someone incapable of swaying his heart. It's just this idea that, like, from the very beginning, like, he was equating love to, like, weakness and basically something standing in the way of, like, his ultimate goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I really liked that part because I felt like it really showed how he could have so easily gone the other way because he is capable of love. He could have, with the right, you know, as we talked about before, like mentorship, gone to a completely different place for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So were there any dystopian themes that you feel like we have not addressed that you want to make sure to bring up until this point?
I would say the different forms of rebellion, you know, that were going on, the rise of power within those dystopian places, and just extreme poverty that we saw from everyone, that everyone was affected. How these oppressive governments, it affects everyone negatively. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, even the people who are supposedly doing really well, it's like really only the tippy top.
Were there any dystopian themes you wanted to make sure to mention?
I mean, I feel like we've pretty much talked about them all. Just kind of like, obviously, we've got the government control, the media control, war, rebellion. I feel like, the different kinds of rebellion. I mean, because even, like, we even noticed, like, with Coriolanus' character, like, with him taking food to feed to her, like, that, he was, like, fairly rebellious as well. So I think that's why I'm saying it's, like, he could have easily been swayed either way. I feel like a big theme in this, too, was, like, how do I, like, word this? Just because something as an idea doesn't mean that it should become reality. So it's like this, I don't know exactly how to say that, but it's almost like, you know, with Corio's dad and Dean Highbottom coming up with this idea or whatever and like pitching it and it being turned into reality. It's like, I don't know what dystopian theme that would be necessarily, but it's like the classic like Jurassic Park warning. Like just because we thought we should do it doesn't mean we should. I can't remember what the exact like, you know, quote is, but it's that. You know what I mean?
Just because we can have self-driving cars doesn't mean we should.
Yeah, exactly. It's the cautionary tale.
It's
like, you know, it's the cautionary tale. So, yeah, I feel like we pretty much covered all the rest of the dystopian themes pretty thoroughly.
I think that's what I liked so much about this prequel, too, is it did kind of humanize the Capitol as well. The people, the citizens of the Capitol. Not the capital of what it stands for, but, like, you saw that they didn't like the Hunger Games either.
Yeah,
like totally. They were forced and manipulated into what we see them become when Katniss enters the arena. You know, they were they were dehumanized. Like there were mixed people that were in Katniss's capital society at that time frame was punishable by death to speak of anything against the Capitol within the Capitol as a Capitol citizen. Whereas when we see the Capitol that Snow's in, people are constantly talking about it and debating it and still debating the ethics of war and post-war because they're only 10 years out.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I appreciated that, you know, that it wasn't no matter what right from the beginning. You can see its slow like decline into pure evil, you know?
Well, and it's they did it. And it's intentional. I think that's the other thing. It's intentional because the people of the Capitol didn't want to watch the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Like it was not entertaining to them. It was depressing and terrible and horrifying and they wanted nothing to do with it. It was not doing well. It was literally going to be canceled because what's the point? Yeah. And all the people in the districts were too poor to have TVs. So literally, it's like no one's even watching it. So what's the point? So it's important to note that, I mean, this is where the dystopian theme of media control and propaganda comes into play because it had to be specifically made into what it was by people intentionally. Yeah. Trying to search for that outcome.
Yeah, it's a weird moral, like, thing to think about with what we know of Snow, right? So we find out, the Hunger Games were going to be canceled. So he took the information he gained within being a peacekeeper in District 12 and used it against people for control, tightened up security. Like, that's how he probably finalized coming into power is because he knew, they just go off their merry way into the woods and do whatever they want. You know, life isn't that bad compared to what Katniss deals with. Yeah. You know, it's still suppressed and they still have issues going on, but they're pretty loose, you know? And he goes and uses all those things against them. And then, but he also does things that are better. Like, okay, if the Hunger Games has to happen, he feeds them. He houses them. He's not putting them in the zoo anymore. Well, you know, he makes it into a spectacle.
Yeah, they need to be humanized. Otherwise, no one will care about their ght. I mean, you know, that was part of it. It's like you have to.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. You have to humanize them, but also
dehumanize
them. Dehumanizing them by sending them to their bloody death. So it's very interesting. It's just very interesting. Yeah. Crazy.
I feel like there was the other thing that I wanted to say too, I don't know if this is a dystopian theme or just like a takeaway from it, is this idea that this is his, you know, quote unquote villain origin story. However, like villains wouldn't be able to succeed in achieving the ends that they desire without a society that is literally most of the time creating an atmosphere that makes that possible. Yeah. So I think that that's also really important. Like, he would have not been able to get to, you know, the Snow we know in the Hunger Games trilogy without having a society that has laid the framework for that type of villain to emerge, you know, victorious within that framework. So, yeah, I think that that's important to note too. Like, he does not, he doesn't exist in a vacuum. He's not just one bad guy, like, making all this stuff happen. It's like a lot of moving parts are necessary.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy.
So, okay, let's talk about the Easter eggs because there were many and they were super fun. I made a list of some of my favorite ones.
Okay.
What do you
go ahead.
You want me to just go? Okay.
Yeah.
So one of my favorites was the fact that Lucy Gray Baird wrote the Hanging Tree song.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, like that clicked this second time around. And I was like, oh, that's like literally like she's out on the, grassy knoll, like writing it,
Yeah.
Yeah. And now that we know who it was about,
yeah,
it makes it even more interesting because she didn't write it from nothing. She like literally wrote it about this whole thing happening with, the rebels and Sejanus and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That was cool. I liked the cabin being the same cabin.
Yeah.
By the lake. That was really cool.
Yep.
I liked finding out, about Snow's obsession with roses and the reason why he loves that rose smell because of his mom's compact and everything.
Yeah.
I just wrote here Tigress. Like, obviously, we have a huge tie-in with Tigress. Yeah. We want to know more about that, please.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite Easter eggs, for sure. And then I put the Mockingjays being used in the Hunger Games because they made Snow feel like he was going crazy. So, like, that whole, kind of mental warfare kind of situation. Finding out kind of where that came from. Yeah. So those were some of my favorites. Do you have any that you want to mention?
Yeah. So birds, going off of that, they play an integral role in this series, and we see Snow's disdain build from the birds from this prequel. So the hatred of the symbol of the Mockingjay. He hated the Mockingjay even existed, like you previously quoted, and it was seeing Katniss like as the Mockingjay, I think that like really set off that
Totally,
full spiral. Lucy is a songbird, so is Katniss, right? And Snow is the snake, because there's a lot about snakes in Ballad of Songbirds and snakes, obviously. So Lucy keeps saying that snakes love her in the book.
Yeah.
Snow was a snake to so many people throughout the series. Snake eyes, he's described as.
Yep.
So she's the songbird, he's the snake. So that symbolism there is crazy.
Yeah.
This was something I found on Reddit. It says, maybe not an Easter egg, but we definitely got the origins of Snow poisoning his enemies. I mean, that's an Easter egg for sure. Starting with Dean Highbottom and Lucy in the arena. So all those tie-ins, love it, eat it up. Nom, 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 nom.
Yep. Same.
Yeah. So I wonder what kind of, because there's a bird and a snake on the next Hunger Games book too, Sunrise on the Reaping. So be curious to see what goes on there. A lot of symbolism with that.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any surprise questions for me today before we get into fun facts?
Surprise question. Should Snow have run away with Lucy Gray instead?
I mean, I wish that they did. Yeah, because I would say yeah. I mean, because then who knows, things may have gone completely differently. Like, let's say he runs away, the alternate universe, right? He runs away with Lucy Gray. Let's say that they, I just thought of another alternate universe. I was going to say, let's say that they leave, they make it to District 13, and they just, like, live happily ever after, right? I don't think that Snow, regardless of his location, would have ever lived happily ever after with her.
Yeah, I don't think he was capable of having a simple life.
Same. So I feel like that's why I was like, ooh, another alternate ending. Maybe they would have made it to District 13, and then Snow would have taken that over, hostile takeover style, but like in a very manipulative like way. So that could have gone completely differently. I think that it would have been interesting to see where that would have gone. But either way, now that I'm talking this out with you, I think that no matter where he would have been, I don't know that they would have worked out because of his, like, kind of insatiable need for power, as we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, in his quote, he's quoting to say power and ability to control things. That is what he loved best of all. So
yeah. I mean, he even talks
Nothing
about,
else.
you know, how Lucy Gray is his. He owns her. He wishes he could keep her in the district just so he could keep tabs on her all the time. Like, he very much talks about her like his property also, which is problematic in a lot of different ways. But honestly, for him, I don't know that it was coming from a misogynistic standpoint. I think it was just coming from a, like, literally he just is power hungry and needs control.
Yeah.
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 Regardless of who the person is, you know?
Yeah. Who or what or when or where. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally. Agreed on all points. All right, so fun fact about A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, this refers to the movie, because that's the only time ever we could find fun facts, really, is that Rachel Ziegler, I think it's how you say her name.
Yeah, yeah.
She sang all of Lucy Gray's songs, including The Hanging Tree, live on set. So all of the performances you hear in the movie were done live. Nothing was pre-recorded.
Love that. I love her.
I
She's
love
so
when movies do that. It's like, wow. She did an incredible job, too.
Yeah.
She really did.
Just, I realized not too long ago, she's Snow White. So, guys, how exciting. I'm going to go see it, I think, this weekend when it comes out. And I'm so excited to see her play Snow White. I think she's going to be really good. Yeah. I
Good
also
singer.
had a bonus.
Ooh.
That this was not a fun fact I found on the internet. This is one that I did of my own research for some reason. It was at 6:48 a.m. in the morning one morning. So I honestly feel like my brain does some of its best work before it's fully awake. I don't know.
Nice.
Okay, so I decided to look up let's see, Lapidus. So he was one of the journalists, right? Yeah, okay, so I decided to look up what his name meant. And it looks like, okay, so just based on the, like, Kindle dictionary definition, he was a Roman statesman and a supporter of Julius Caesar in the Civil War against Pompey, which I thought was really interesting that she chose that name for him because, you know, as we know, you know, media control and propaganda is huge in these books. And so to have literally his name mean the same thing as a major supporter of Julius Caesar during their civil war is so fascinating and just shows that, like, these authors, when they're, like, picking names to name characters or, like, places or, like, world building in general, like, lots of times these things do come from history in one way or the other. And so I found that. I'm glad I screenshot that I did that because I completely forgot. I was like, I have to remember to share that later.
Nice.
But it just shows that also, like, you know, whatever you want to call them, Snow, the dictators, the evil villains, you know, wouldn't get far without the ability to control the media narrative. That's huge. And is arguably almost entirely responsible for the success of any type of regime coming to power. Because, without that kind of media control, what do you have? You don't, you know, you have what? Word of mouth? Like, good luck, you know? So it's important, and I feel like, you know, as benign of a character as I feel like, you know, Lapidus or Lucky Flickerman or whoever, you know, he's painted as being just this very, like, he's a likable character. The journalists are typically very likable characters, I feel like, in this series. Lucky in particular, who I feel like a lot of us, you know, enjoyed his character and whatever. We wouldn't wish for evil to befall him necessarily, right? But it's like he's contributing hugely, as is like the whole mainstream media situation to the atrocities. Yeah. So it's an interesting way to just make sure that we're not forgetting about that.
Yeah. Oof, I think of every dictatorship that we know of, and that was like the number one thing: media control.
It doesn't get far without propaganda, guys. It doesn't get far, and there's usually someone. There's someone smart behind it, like you know. That's the thing about Corio. They saw his potential in creating that. Well, even though that leaves us on a depressing note, we get to read Sunrise on the Reaping now. So that's awesome. Assuming, I think that I heard the dogs barking a little bit ago, so maybe my package is outside in the mailbox, so that would be exciting.
Yay!
We should probably wrap it up, but next Friday, look forward to Sunrise on the Reaping, and then the Friday after that, we've got the movies and our wrap-up. Crazy.
Yeah. I think because this is Snow's book, okay, we're going to take into account, at the end of the book, he's like a college kid, okay? I'm going to preface it by saying that. So, Coriolanus Snow, unhinged, in any form, you know, as long as he's of age. Smash or pass.
It's like, I always forget that guy's name, but we watched a documentary when I was at my house, the Smash, Smash, Smash guy. Or when we were at your house. You don't remember? He got like really popular for a while. Oh, and there was like a true crime documentary about him. He smashed someone. You don't remember that?
Oh, the Kai?
Yes,
Axe guy?
yes, the axe guy.
I only remember it because of that person's license plate that we saw that said Kai Axe right after.
That was so weird.
That was so weird.
But I always
see it all the
picture him in
time,
my
and I'm just
head
like, yeah.
when I think smash, smash, smash.
So there you go. There you have it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Watch the movie if you're unsure.
Yeah, hey, listen, Lucy, I get it. I get it, Lucy.
Yeah,
I get it.
We all get it.
What can we say?
What can we say?
Yep. All right, you guys, I think that's it for today. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcasts, including YouTube. We'll be back Tuesday for our normal episodes, and then Friday, Sunrise on the Reaping. Make sure notifications are turned on so you don't miss out on that, and we'll see ya all the time.
All the times. Tuesdays and Fridays.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.